fregata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo, ancora Pirlo di tacco, tiro,
Hello and welcome to this week's AC Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host Samit Paul and I'm joined by my good friend Jason Brown. Jace, how you doing?
Yeah, good mate, good to be back.
Good to have you back, mate. And I'm also delighted to be joined by Jack Cowlin. Jack, you well?
Yeah, mate, really good. Head spinning a bit from all this business and transfer links and everything, but another exciting week for Milan.
100%, mate. Right, fellas, another podcast, another signing to discuss. We'll talk Andre Silva's arrival, the latest on Gianluigi Donnarumma's contract, and all the transfer rumours still swirling around as we assess what's still needed at Milan. But let's start with the arrival of Silva. He's the fourth summer signing, follows Kessie, Musacchio and Ricardo Rodriguez. And just to fill in the blanks in terms of the finances involved, believe, according to reports, he's arrived in a €38 million deal plus €2 million in bonuses. And shout out to Forza and Mirabelli on this one, because I believe he had a €60 million release clause in his contract. So with the help of Jorge Mendes, they've definitely negotiated that down, which is a massive plus. And I believe he's signed a 5-year contract worth just under €2 million a year. So aside from the fact that he's joined, big boost for us up front, but on the financial side of things as well, makes pretty good sense to me. Just read you a quote from him, and then I'll get your thoughts on him and the business Milan are continuing to do. Silva said, "I was pleasantly surprised by this opportunity. I'm very happy to be at Milan. I know the history and greatness of this club. Still, it's a dream to be here. Like I said before, everyone knows the greatness of the Rossoneri and the champions who have played here. Being at Milan is a point of arrival. I'll give my best to these colours and to win with this great shirt." Jack, I'll come to you first. Talk to me a bit about Silva. How much have you seen of him? But in the more, the bigger picture, the signings continue to arrive. How impressed are you?
Yeah, really impressed. I'm a bit gutted and disappointed ourselves that obviously we were talking about the Champions League meet-up between the agent and Mendes and obviously the Milan guys, and I sort of spoke about how good it was that they're out there and might not be necessarily looking to barter a deal there and then, but just making sure that people know that Milan are there and wanting in on this great talent. And then lo and behold, we underestimate them and boom, 38 million's gone, isn't it? So no, fair play to them. Yeah, great bit of business. Got to hold my hands up on this one. The Portuguese league is probably the minimal one that I do follow and see. His stats didn't blow me away. I think a bit like the Dutch league. Sometimes you look over there and you're expecting, like Jackson Martinez and Falcao and these other sort of standout players in recent years that have been in there that score goal a game, just under goal a game and that sort of ratio. And he's not quite at that level, but he's young, and obviously been doing it for the national team now. I've heard some real high praise from Ronaldo coming from him in terms of sort of the future of Portugal and sort of being in his hands and such. And it's exciting. I'm sure I've done what every other Milan fan has done and, gone and YouTubed every video going and sort of tried to get as much insight knowledge as I can. But no, I like it. The attributes seem to be there. The age is on side. And it's one of those that we spoke about a little bit, high risk, high reward sort of factor and such. So looks really promising. Certainly got the energy that we want, and obviously knows where the goal is. So can't wait to see him get started so that we can really start to get an idea of who he is and obviously form a strong opinion on him.
Absolutely. I think, I've been very honest on this podcast previously with other targets, so I'm not going to pretend to, know the ins and outs of his game. But from what I've read, from what I've seen, I understand your point, the Portuguese league, and there's still plenty to prove. He's still 21. But what strikes me the most is all the talk that the attributes that he's got seem really well suited to what Montella wants from his striker. I've heard a lot of people say that he's just that rough and ready sort of striker up top. He'll get about the defenders, he'll press, he'll work hard. He's got 8 assists last season, so he knows how to link up play and show that side of his game. And obviously, the eye for goal is very much an added bonus. Jace, what are your thoughts on this kid? He's still young, he's got a long way to go. As Jack alluded to there, Ronaldo's basically said, when I retire, don't worry, Portugal's in safe hands, Silva's the future. That's pretty decent praise coming from Ronaldo.
Yeah, that's very high praise, mate. I mean,
Has Ronaldo ever praised anyone before?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I mean, like you say, he's only young, 21 years old, so bright future ahead of him, I guess. Like Jack, I haven't seen very much of him apart from his appearances in the Champions League, but I looked at his stats as well, and they weren't terrible in, I thought, a goal every other game in the league, and like Samit said, 8 assists across the season, I think 6 in the league and 2 in the Champions League. But, that's what you want from you forward, from what you're talking about and what I've heard from other sources as well. He is that type of player that's really going to press, high energy. And like you said, that's what Milan need. That's what they were missing recently. And it's what's going to really help them propel them in Serie A and in Europe.
Yep, no, I have to agree. It's almost like the goals of Bacca plus what we're screaming out for all season, hopefully, is what I'm kind of picturing in my mind. Obviously,
a bit more energy up top.
Exactly. If he can marry those two together, then I think we've got a top prospect, on our hands. Mendes was waxing lyrical about him, saying he's going to be one of the best strikers in Italy in time. So he's going to say that. Obviously, he's his client, but everybody seems to be really high on this kid, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what he brings next season. So it'd be
more dealings. Mendes, Raiola, you got all the super agents on the books now, haven't you? It's
right. Well, I'm kind of hoping this will move away from Raiola, but we'll make Mendes our best friend. But,
got to buy him another island or whatever. Ronaldo bought him when he got his.
Certainly do. But no, good stuff. It's the fourth signing, as I mentioned earlier, so keeping them coming. I think Mirabelli's kind of taken a step back. He said we're going to calm things down at this point and assess what we've got, what we need. There will be more signings, but don't expect a new signing to arrive every week, which is back to the norm, which is usual. It's fine. One of the bigger talking points out of this, guys, is obviously the kind of change in strategy that Milan are adopting now. We've obviously been linked with the likes of Morata, Aubameyang and Belotti for whatever reason, whether it be high transfer fees, 100 million euros for Belotti, Aubameyang's wages, Morata obviously on his way to United by all accounts. We've changed our strategy in the sense that we've gone for someone like Silva, not quite proven, cheaper, the more sort of sensible financial decision in my opinion, which then gives us the kind of flexibility to go out and get another striker. Nikola Kalinic from Fiorentina is one that's being touted, but not 100% certain on that one. But Jack, where do you sit on this one? Because should we have gone for the big name? Should we have gone for the marquee signing, splash out, take that massive gamble? Or is this the more sensible option? We've spent a fair amount, of course, but we've not spent the whole budget on him, and we've still got that, those reserves to kind of go out and continue to strengthen elsewhere as well.
Yeah, I think it's like an honest signing in line with where you are. If I'm honest, mate, I don't think it's too much of a change of strategy either. Obviously there's rumours and links every time there's big money floated around, and there's sort of easy links to make a lot of the time. But if you actually look at the business you've done, you're not going for the most desirable talent in the marketplace, but rather sort of the top quality talent in that sort of second tier, as it were, in a bid that they're all going to go on and become, a tier one. Obviously Kessie, he's very rated, he's highly rated, but he's not a, if you were going for a centre mid, a Fabregas or one of these people that are sort of proven over Europe, maybe later 20s, and that side. Rodriguez, top quality left back. Me and Jason have obviously spoken highly about him in the past and such, but again, he's not. If you think of a left back, he's not one of the top, 10, 15 left backs you instantly think of. And I think this signing is actually in line with that. If you were going over and you were, competing with major clubs, I think you're going to end up, you make a 70 million signing on Belotti, say, and I get a bit nervous because, there's such a go big, go home sort of situation coming then when you start spending that amount of money on players. Managers are going to get sacked. Fans are going to get uneasy when there's not instant success and, titles and things like that. So I think going through these stages, it's sort of still curbs the sort of expectations a little bit, but gives you so much excitement, not just for this coming year, but for the next one. So there is obviously, it is still a lot of money. That's something we've got to say. 38 million isn't just a whim, is it? It's sort of not a youthful guy plucked from nowhere. So there are going to be expectations, and being young and obviously the Ronaldo comments, it's going to have us all excited, really watching those first couple of games and stuff. But I think it's in line with where you're at. It's sort of, looking around the marketplace and saying, listen, if we go for this guy, we might have first dibs on him, like a Kessie, like this Silva sort of guy, where it's, we're not going to have competition. Whilst you go for a Morata and they go, yeah, we could be interested talking to you, but we're also sitting down with United, Chelsea, Juventus, all these sort of super teams. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, we might get to the table, but how much are we actually going to eat at this place? Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of, it's all very well trying to go for those places, but you spend, I've got no doubts that these Morata and Belotti, these sort of deals won't be done until, I don't know, mid-August, early August at a push sort of time. They're going to take a couple of months of dragging out because of all the different parties involved. Whilst these sort of business, look how quick you've got it over the line because you've moved, acted quickly, moved swiftly, and really, hats off to the scouting team, hats off to the management and everything like that. Because to me, their 4 signings that instantly, dramatically overhauled the squad and the look of the team, and yeah, really, really exciting. And as I said, looking to the future with them all. So I think it's impressive business, great to get it done. But as I said, I think it's a really clever strategy as well.
Definitely. Jace, I'll get your opinion in a second, but I just want to add, I think it all comes in time. I look at Juventus a few years ago, after they'd finished 7th in Serie A a couple of seasons in a row. They didn't go out and buy the likes, comparing them, likes of Higuain and people like that in their first season when they were, on their way marching back to the top. They bought those kind of players that were still fairly expensive and proven to an extent, but I almost see this as the building of the foundations. You get these guys in place, you improve slightly, you get a top 3 finish next season potentially. Once you've done that, you've proven to the big boys that, yep, we're back on the scene, we're thereabouts competing. That's when you go and get the big names like spend big money on likes of Belotti and those guys. I think they come further down the line. I mean, Jason, do you echo what Jack said as well in that sense?
Yeah, I do, definitely. I think as well, coming from managerial point of view, getting the big names, it's going to be difficult to kind of managing egos and expectations and balancing the dressing room and things like that. Getting these younger players in who are hungry for success, it's kind of, your job's not done for you, but you're partially there. Like, they're all young and hungry and ready to prove themselves for a team like Milan. So getting these type of players in who themselves really want to make a big impression kind of makes things a little bit easier, I think, going forward. And then, like you say, once the tenacity and the energy that they bring can push you up a few places in the league, then you start adding in those bits of quality that you need probably to take you from like a 3rd, 4th spot to a 1st or 2nd spot.
Yeah, no, definitely.
For sure. The other thing is as well is, you've got to look at the other financials of it is in the wages as well. And I don't know, you might have the figures to hand to me. I'm not sure if they've been quoted and such yet, but I can't imagine any of these players you've signed so far have come in on absolutely ridiculous ridiculous money and such, where your Romagnolis and your Donnarummas and such are all of a sudden like, if you've gone and got a Belotti or a Morata and all of a sudden you're paying them 150, 200 grand a week or whatever they might expect at level, then all of a sudden they can go, well, he's on that, I want some of that as well. I imagine these guys have come in, a bit more level playing field, they're not rocking up in Bugattis whilst everyone else is in their Fords and stuff like that. I think it'll be, so again, that harmony of the squad and obviously giving the manager his new contract, it is about building, like you said, a platform rather than just sort of trying to skyrocket to the top.
Yeah, no, I 100% echo those thoughts. I mean, Silva, just under €2 million a year. They've suggested. I don't believe there's much difference with Kessie. Similar sort of age, that level. I'm assuming Rodriguez and Musacchio probably fetched a little bit more, but you're right. I don't think it's to a point where you're kind of growing discontent within the team.
What's Donnarumma got on the table? Is that 4.5?
Yeah, it's rumoured to be between 4.5 and 5.
Do you know what I mean? So the players that have been there and that have sort of been told for the last few years, they're the building blocks, still feel like that. Do you know what I mean? Like these great players can come in, but it's still like, this is my house. Do you know what I mean? You've got to come in and, work your way up to sort of our level that we've been doing the last few years in this building. So, I like it.
Absolutely. No complaints from me. All good. Jace, just before we move on to Donnarumma, we've spoken about it previously, but I just want to reiterate how impressed I am with the management, with Rossoneri and Mirabelli in particular.
Yeah.
There I was, Sunday night, feet up, cup of tea in my hand, thought, quiet Sunday, chilled out. Check Twitter, next thing you know, not only is Silva agreed terms, but he's at Milanello going through the initial sort of medical tests with a view of being unveiled on Monday afternoon. It came out of nowhere, really. I knew the interest was there, it was well reported, but the fact that it moved so quickly was a massive shock, and it almost added to the sort of excitement surrounding the signing. They've done it previously. They surprised us with Montella's renewal on Facebook Live. Rodriguez, they had the whole big build-up. It's just great, man. It just strikes me as great management at all levels from the club.
They've definitely been working in the background.
Yeah.
You can see they've probably been planning this. They've probably had a lot of different options, kind of 50%, 60% there, and then they've got to the end of the season and sat down with Montella and said, okay, who should we, drop the axe on? Who do we really want to get? And they've just probably completed all these kind of half-done deals.
Yeah.
I think for them to move this quickly, they couldn't just be, starting initial talks and getting it done within like 3-4 days. I think this has definitely been in the works. I reckon when the takeover happened and when the whole management structure was put in place, I think they've been working since then, probably a good couple of months just to try and get all these deals done.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Mirabelli was on his scouting missions long before the new regime came in, so he's been absolutely brilliant. And that kind of was echoed by Jorge Mendes. He did say that this is one of the first times where he's dealt with a big club that, a transfer that he's been involved in has been kept so quiet until the very end, where his players undergoing a medical before it becomes common knowledge. So for that side of things, he was really, really impressed with the professionalism shown by the club.
Because he loves it, doesn't he? He loves it when it's quiet.
But Jack, that point Jace made there, really important. It does really feel as if they've sat down with Montella and really gone through the list of players to pick out, individuals that really fit into this team. I know I spoke about it last week in terms of Masaccio filling in that role next to Romagnoli. We've had problems at left back, so Rodriguez coming in brilliant. Midfield's been a shambles. Kessie coming in fantastic. And obviously we need that striker, and we've got one. Still pieces to add, but if you look at them on an individual basis and what they bring to the team, you have to say that they've got it spot on. And as you mentioned earlier with prices and wages, where do you find that there's no real area of complaint? I can't find a single one.
No, absolutely. And you've got to think, when he was signing that contract and giving his pretty handsome smile as he was, he was thinking, you guys don't even know how happy I am. This club's about to deliver exactly what I've sort of asked of them. And, we spoke about it for months in terms of the takeover and guarantees and reassurances and things like that from the club. And yeah, so far they've surpassed everything we could have expected from them, everything every Milan fan could expect, and probably every player, every coach, everyone within the club, behind the scenes and such since they've come in. It's been efficient. It's do you know what I mean? You're doing business at the moment and activity that we're not seeing anywhere else, and of this quality. It's quite hard to think of the last time that in the space of a week or 2 weeks, a team has been, a good team. Let's not forget that we were a good team last year, but in terms of the difference within 2 weeks is astronomical, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I can't actually think of the last time I was like, whoa, all of a sudden they've gone from good team to, major player. Roma, Roma, Napoli and stuff must be like, hold on a minute, what's going on over there? Because I think Juve will feel comfortable because, again, they've got the clout, they've got the prestige and everything now to, they'll still trump everybody in the market. They'll still snap up the real top level talent as and when they see fit. But the other teams, second down now, all of a sudden you're like, you know what? On paper, we've got a chance here.
Definitely. All looking very positive, boys. Let's obviously the big test will come when pre-season starts and Montella has to put this all together. But until that, I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. So let's wait for the next signing to arrive. Jace, tomorrow is a massive day. By all accounts, it's decision day for Donnarumma. Obviously, he's got a contract offer on the table from Milan. They're doing all this business in the background, well, very much in the foreground, really. And yeah, this deadline's been put in place for a couple of weeks. He's got to decide now. This is the point. I don't think there's no ifs or buts. It's either, yep, I'm committing my future, or no, I'm not happy with the offer and I'm going to look elsewhere. Just read you a quote from him that was published in GQ today. Everyone knows that my wish is to stay at Milan. I'm looking for a house in the city to live with my family. I'm calm. All the parties involved know the decision I've made. I'm very much tied to these colours. Both Mino and Enzo Raiola and I are a cohesive team. That all sounds absolutely fantastic.
I've got to just say, Sammy,
yeah,
only a smooth guy like you would get his football news from GQ.
It's how I roll, mate. It's how I roll. It all sounds fantastic, and for the first time in a while, he's come out and spoken publicly himself to give a clearer picture of where his head's at. But as you know, as we know, as Jack knows, when you're dealing with Raiola, it's a different situation. You can say one thing, but whether or not he's going to be signing that piece of paper tomorrow is something else. How do you assess those comments? And do you go into tomorrow knowing that a decision is going to be made, confident that he's going to commit, or do you still feel a little bit uneasy about it?
It sounds to me as if he's going to commit. I think he's volunteered these comments. It sounds like he didn't have to say that. He could have said he's gone into quite a bit of detail, talking about looking for a house tied to these colours. And the fact that, it looks like De Gea is staying at Man United, it kind of, where does he go? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think probably there was a point where he was looking at other teams, potentially United coming to the Premier League. But I think with what's gone on at other clubs, what's going on at Real Madrid, what's going on in Manchester, what's going on at Juve as well with Chesney going there, I think he's probably looked at it and thought, I'm a Milan lad. Me furthering my career at one of these bigger clubs, that's not going to happen right now. Why not stay and see what project's going on? Maybe as well, the signings have persuaded him.
Yep.
Looking at how quick Milan have moved with getting the 4 players in, maybe he's thinking, I'm excited for next season. Maybe we can push for that top spot. So I reckon he'll stay. Definitely reckon he'll stay.
Jack, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's staying. I've said it before that, I'm pretty adamant. We spoke about the Europa coming up, and obviously in not too distant future, and I'm firmly in belief that he's going to stick there, just because, I think it's the right place for him to be. I think Jace kind of gets there in terms of where's he going to go, but for them to put this deadline and that such in place, the big teams aren't playing around at the moment. People are actually on holidays. They'll be sort of getting their listing together. There's obviously some talks going on and things like that, but activity will really kick off. The big activity will really kick off in a couple of weeks. And I think that Milan have had that in their favour. I mean, it would be unnatural if he wasn't there, wasn't it? I think that, it'd just be sort of strange. And I think everything is in place for him to give it a go. And hey, he carries on his upward trajectory, no matter his contract, no matter what. If he was that adamant he wanted to leave, or that these clubs really wanted him next year, there's another chance to get him. There's going to be many years for people to try and prize him away, but this year just doesn't feel the one to me.
No, I don't think so. I'm firmly in the camp that he will sign. Expecting that announcement tomorrow. I think it's good that it's going to be put to bed as soon as possible, and that's why I've been in favour with how Milan have dealt with it, and they've put this deadline in place and just get on with it, because fan opinion did turn on him a little bit. I think on social media there were a few more sort of disgruntled supporters, just criticising him, Raiola, the whole situation. So for him to commit at this stage will be a real boost for the whole club and the fan base. I just keep going back to it. I know both of you have mentioned it, but just the fact that he can be the face of Milan now, moving forward for years, if he decides to stay and we're successful. And I just don't see him getting that anywhere else, the same sort of feeling towards it, knowing that he's a Milan boy. I just think it's the right move for everyone, just to commit and be a massive part of this hopefully successful future.
Would you expect them to give him captaincy for next year?
I wouldn't personally. I think they did play around with the idea, didn't they, at the end of last season with injuries and suspensions, but I'm looking around trying to think of the team and who would get the captain's armband. His name would probably be in there because I don't think Montalivo is going to be knocking
Ramignoli,
around.
Bonaventura.
Yeah, it'd have to be one of the more sort of senior guys that have been there for a while. Because I think we've got this tradition where it's sort of the guy that's been there the longest. So Abate's had it, Montalivo's had it. I don't know who it would pass on to. I think I personally would give it to someone like Romagnoli. I always like my captain being a centre half. I don't know why. I think that might just be me, but
yeah, I agree with you there, mate. It's always nice to have a strong centre half as your captain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, just the armband, but yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad move. I think if they gave him the captaincy, if they plan on him being there a long time, like you say, he's a Milan boy. All the comparisons to Buffon as well, Buffon being a goalkeeper captain as well, someone who's like a one-man club, or not a one-man club, but it's been at Juve for such a long time. I think it could be a good move as well if they want to make him the face of Milan. But I see what you're saying, go for that experience. But I don't think he'll make a bad captain. He seems to have pretty good leadership qualities already at such a young age.
No, absolutely. His name will be in there. I think Bonaventura is a good shout as well, Jack. Be an interesting one. It's a good topic. I might have to throw a poll out there, Jack, for that one.
Yeah, you might.
No, good stuff. By the way, if you did miss it, if Donnarumma does decide to jump ship and crack on somewhere else, don't worry about it. We've got another kid coming through, Alessandro Plizzardi, 17 years old, saved a couple penalties in the under-20s, third place playoff. We've known about him for a while. It's not like he's just completely jumped on the scene at this tournament, but tip for a very bright future. It's kind of a bit annoying that he's come along at the same time as Donnarumma. They're both going to be challenging for the same spot. But yeah, Jack, I know we're not all as good as England. We can't win the tournament, but he certainly did his part on the weekend. So there's another name.
How tall is he?
He's not Donnarumma level. He's
Get out of it. If you're not 7 foot plus, I've got no interest in you.
Dear, but yeah, we'll see now. So hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, we'll have an answer on Donnarumma's future, and we'll see where he is. But moving on, Jace, come to you first with the transfer rumours that are doing the rounds over the past 7 days. One interesting name that has split opinion. I am very much in the no. I don't want him at the club sort of side of the argument, but Diego Costa. I get the argument for. I understand he's ruthless, he's a goal scorer, winning mentality, all that great stuff, top player. But for me, I've got a big problem with the image side of it. I think Milan have kind of gotten everyone excited, even sort of neutral fans. I don't really see him coming in and making us unpopular overnight is a good move. Yeah. But what's your take on that potential transfer if he was to come?
I reckon it would be a good signing if you could get him for the right price and obviously the right wages. But I think he is a winner. He is ruthless. As much as I'm an Arsenal fan, I hate him. He's a good player. I have to admit, I definitely would want him on my side as opposed to playing against him. But yeah, I can see why people would think that. But the only thing I'd say is, when he was at Atletico, he didn't have such a bad reputation. It was only really when he came to Chelsea, and I think Mourinho kind of pushed that out of him a bit more. He wanted him to be a bit more aggressive in the Premier League, it being such a physical league. But I don't think he'll be as menacing in the Italian league as he is in the Premier League. I think he'll kind of put his head down. He'll still be the strong, same Costa that he always is, but I don't think some of the antics that we see. I don't think he'll bring that to Italy if he was to come.
Yeah, certainly wouldn't hope so. Jack, what's your take on that one?
Yeah, I get what you say in terms of the image and sort of the training ground and things like that, but we're not overly privy. He does still seem to have the backing of his teammates a lot of the time. That's one thing I would say is he's often involved in, pretty over-the-top celebrations and players running to him. So things like that, I think, actually probably lend himself to, he's probably actually a very good teammate rather than opposition. And mate, he's got to be, top 10 striker in the world, somewhere along those sort of lines. He absolutely bangs them in. He brings a hell of a lot to the team. And, if you did get him again, it's another one that's a bit of a game changer, I think. And, there is the slight risk of the attitude and which, the nastiness and all the rest. But in terms of leading the line and getting goals, he is definitely world class. So it's one of those. Do you know what I mean? Are you looking to win it now? If so, go get him. Whilst if you're kind of thinking now we can build, and over the next couple of years slowly get there, then I'd probably hold fire.
Very much in the build without Costa camp, but we'll have to wait and see. Jace, another man that I mentioned earlier is Nikola Kalinic from Fiorentina, and this plays into that sort of discussion I was having in the sense of the change in strategy, where now we've got Silva, we've got that sort of flexibility to go out and get another striker to kind of complement him and take the pressure off him, because I think that's important. We can't just put it all on a 21-year-old new signing to, go out, we want 20 league goals plus from you next season. So we've got to get someone else in. The only positives in terms of Kalinic is, of course, that he's experienced. He's played in Serie A now for a couple of years for Fiorentina. And he almost ticks all the same boxes as Silva in the sense that he works hard off the ball. He fits in well with Montella, who knows him from the Fiorentina days. So for me, it makes a lot of sense. Is that a kind of signing that you would kind of like to see to complement Silva? Or do you think we should be aiming higher? Or do you think, no, go all in on Silva, maybe get just a older, more experienced guy for less?
No, I think it makes sense, especially if you're planning to make Silva, the main guy in the next coming seasons, to get someone that can complement him and allow him to still shine as the number one attacker. I think that makes sense. And Kalinic having the experience, being 29 now, I think, or 30 now.
Yeah.
Playing at Fiorentina, he's definitely knows the league. He's decent goal scoring record as well. And from your standpoint, big NBA fan I hear as well. So sure you like that. But,
always welcome.
Yeah, but now I think it makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
Definitely. Jack, are you with that as well? The only thing that I kind of look towards and say I'm not a fan of this move, because in general I do think it would be a really, really sensible and smart signing, even though I've seen a lot of people disagree on Twitter. But he's got a €50 million release clause, and I believe the figure that's been touted in Italy in the media is €30 million. Now, for that price, I wouldn't get him, because I think that's well over the top. But are we looking in the right place in terms of the mould of that second option?
I think so, yeah. Again, I sort of mentioned that I thought Lapadula was probably a third choice striker rather than your second, just because of the lack of goals, as it were. And I think he's more of a squad filler. So I do think, even with Silva coming in, if Bacca moves on as we expect, then you do need that a second option. And I think that is the sensible time to look in the league, look at a 10 to 15 goal scorer on a pretty consistent basis, maybe in their prime, either just near in the end of their prime and that sort of stage. So I think that's the sort of mould. 30 million, it's just too much though. You've got to be looking for somebody who's going to pretty much warm the bench most of the time. 15 to 20 million is sort of where I would be looking to do business, and I would be looking around clubs that you might be able to find an option at that level, because again, if your number one striker's 30 million, it just seems a bit crazy to sort of pay the same amount for the person that's clearly going to be number two. You do need a certain standard for them to still come in and impact games. I understand that, but I think that would be the first one. If you were to get that over the line, where I'd sort of say you've been had there a little bit and bent over and maybe pushed a bit too far for that. But you do need that. I do feel as though you can't survive on just one striker, as we've seen, even with Bacca this year, in terms of when they're not on fire and not delivering. If you haven't got someone who can come in and replace them, it makes it really difficult for the manager to know how to set up and to sort of which way to go. So I like the idea. I like the sort of the area that you're looking in there, but not completely sold myself that he's the right guy with those sort of figures.
Yeah, I'd have to pretty much agree with everything you said there. One bit of sad news, I do believe that Silva wants the number 9 shirt, and Lapadula currently has that. Sky are reporting that's the number he's going to get, so what that means for Lapadula's future, I'm not too sure. So he may well
get a new shirt numbers for me.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's Lapadula. He can't be too disappointing.
There's a lot of rumours flying around that he will be moving on, whether it's as a sort of make weight in a deal for another target, just to kind of bridge that gap between the fee and get a player exchange involved. His name is
Fiorentina.
Potentially, yeah, that is an option.
Even after all his modelling with the shirt and everything.
Yeah, it was breaking my heart a little bit, to be honest. It's got to stay, Lapadula, got to stay. Jason, another man that's been linked is Emil Forsberg from RB Leipzig. Just read you a quote from him because I did love it. Milan are a great club, a big club, one of the largest in the world. They have an interesting project in many ways. They are investing and want to take back the throne. The Champions League is not an important factor. I care more about the role as a player in the team. The thing that struck me the most, Jay, so far is all 4 players that we've signed have been really committed to taking Milan back to the top. And I know it's one thing saying it, another thing doing it, but I just enjoy that aspect of having someone that's so sort of, motivated to do well for the club. He's had a really, really good season in Germany. I'm not sure how much you've seen of him, either of you, but is that a kind of another signing that fits the mould of what we're looking for, and could he do a job for us?
He could do. Probably a better signing than Kalanic. But I mean, he did have a good season. His goal scoring record wasn't that great, but his assists were, I think he got 22 assists in the Bundesliga last year. That's pretty amazing. Cheaper as well. I hear he's going for about 20 mil, so could save a bit of money on him. I'd definitely be looking, if you're looking for a kind of that attacking player who's, like you say, who's not going to chip in with all of the goals, but who's going to be, assisting players, linking up play, there to support Silva. I think this would be a good signing.
Yeah,
Definitely
I think the expectation would be he'll probably play out on the left if we sign him, obviously. And like you said, those assists are pretty damn impressive.
Well, he plays for Leipzig. He kind of plays as a part of the forward 2, doesn't he? I think. Yeah, I guess it shows his versatility. If you can play out wide, play maybe in a 10 role just behind the striker, or maybe as part of a front 2 as well. So
yeah, no, it's good. It's versatility as well. It's something we definitely need. Jack, have you seen much of him? Got an opinion on Forsberg?
Yeah, I like him. Yeah, certainly from what I've seen. Again, it's I can't say I've seen him week in, week out, but everything I've seen, obviously over at RB Leipzig, they've had a hell of a season, run as of late, haven't they? The last couple of years has been incredible over there, and he's been a key component. I've seen a bit more of him in a bit more of a midfield sort of led role rather than up top, and I've always really liked his passing range and his ability to link up players. But yeah, just a classy player, really good age, and again fits the mould in terms of coming in, filling a need. Obviously, if the Delafeu is going to move on and such, Suso on one side, him potentially on the left with Silva up top, Kessie, Benaventura, all of a sudden you're going, bloody hell, this is happy days.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit split on it, but from again, like as you mentioned there, I've not seen him week in, week out, so I can't give a full-on judgment of him. But what I'm hearing, top player, and certainly fill a role that still needs filling, essentially. So promising one there. One move that I do expect to happen this week before the Under-21s European Championship starts is Andrea Conti. I know we've been speaking about him for the past few weeks now, but it's been a bit of back and forth between his agent and Atalanta through the media. Essentially, it comes down to the fact that he's agreed personal terms, but now they're just haggling over the transfer fee. And as I mentioned, Lapadula's name has been touted around that deal as well, just to kind of sweeten things and get it over the line. But I fully expect him to be signed sooner rather than later, because I believe Inter tried to get in ahead of us but got rejected because he only wants Milan, according to the reports. So that's always nice to hear as well. But yeah, I think moving forwards, I know we've moved very quickly in the sense that it's only 2-3 weeks since the season ended, and we've brought in 4 new players, filling in various roles in the starting lineup. I'm just kind of looking at what's left to be addressed, really. If Donnarumma signs his contract, that's him in goal. I'm looking at a back 4 of Conti, Musacchio, Romagnoli, Rodriguez, and then Kessie and Bonaventura in midfield. But I do believe we've still got to fill that deep, lying playmaker role in midfield, which is attracting a lot of names. Bilia's the main one. I think we're still trying to get in from Lazio, but whether or not that happens remains to be seen. Suso out on the right, Silva now up top, and then as you mentioned, left wing Jack. Whether Delafeu's name's been banded around again, potentially he's not happy staying at Barca, so he doesn't want to go to Everton. So whether or not we swoop in for him again, I don't know, but that is certainly a position that still needs filling for us.
Yeah, I think it is. I think, as you said, I've mentioned before in terms of it's difficult to try and think of the complete overhaul of the squad, but there were glaring weaknesses, and there were quite a few of them last season. So I think that left wing spot is now where I would be looking. The second striker is another key spot. And then I think, obviously with Conte coming on board, if we think that's your right back, I think that's you pretty much done. There's still got to be room for youth to come through. Milan are huge advocates of promoting from within as well. And I know that you've got a few boys that you really tout and really like that are of a younger age. And you wouldn't want to see them all just loaned out and slowly disappear into other clubs' ranks and such because they're no longer given the opportunity. So I don't think you're too far off. I think maybe one or two more, and I'd probably call it a day if I'm honest. Post Conte. So it's close, but I would say after that one's wrapped up, probably that last attacking position is where I'd be looking.
Yeah, definitely. Jace, just to pick up on Jack's point there, in terms of the youngsters, I'm looking at Calabria and Locatelli in particular. I know we've spoken about Locatelli quite a lot over the course of last season. What's the best, sort of way of dealing with them now? Because if Conte comes in, that's Calabria falling further down the pecking order. At this point, Locatelli's not too far down it, but Kessie comes in, that's additional competition. Montalivo's still there, Sosa's still there, Bonaventura's coming back from injury. He's going to be pushed out a little bit. What's your take? Do you think they should be loaned out to gain experience? Or the thing that keeps coming back in my mind is that we've obviously got the Europa League, which could be, an additional, God knows how many games, 20 games, I think, from start to finish, including qualifiers. Do we need to keep hold of these guys to add depth and cover when needed, or would you say that it's best that they get sent out on loan now?
I think it's definitely important to keep Locatelli as he's kind of, I know both of them are being touted as the future of Milan, but more Locatelli, I think, than Calabria. So to keep him, I think would be important as well. The position he plays, you kind of need, you're probably more likely to kind of need more players in that position, playing across the middle of the park, come on and influence games in different ways. So I'll definitely keep him here. Maybe loan out Calabria to get that experience in play. I don't know where he would go, whether you keep him in the league or send him abroad or not. But definitely, I think it's important to keep Locatelli. I think it's probably important to keep both of them, but realistically, players want to play. And if you can't promise them ample playing time, I think it's only fair, only helps their development to send them out and let them play, let them learn, let them make mistakes, and then come back more experienced and ready to take a first team spot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do, yeah, I see your point on Locatelli in particular. I just think that Calabria's going to fall too far down the pecking order, so I know he's versatile, he can play on the left as well, but I just see it being a little bit more difficult for him. My only hope is that Locatelli kind of pushes Montalivo and Sosa down and jumps ahead of them and is that sort of first man to go to once we've made this new signing. I'd like to see him as the kind of second choice in there, but whether or not.
But I mean, barring injuries, you normally keep your defence pretty stable, don't you? You don't really want to change defenders, so I think there's less chance that Calabria is going to get an opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas tactical reasons or just general rotation, or like you mentioned Europe, Locatelli's probably got more of an opportunity to show what he can do, and maybe he does force his way into up the pecking order even more. So I think it is important to keep him, definitely.
Absolutely. Jack, what's your take on it? Because I know wouldn't say we've had a massive difference of opinion on Locatelli in the past, but I've certainly been pushing for him to play more. What do you think's the best approach with him in particular next season?
Again, it all goes back to us, sort of mentioning that we're building to the future and looking to the future and stuff. So I think he's got to stay. I think, he's going to be playing alongside some top class players, getting to go up against Kessie every day in training and Bonaventura and learn off these guys is to me much more important than potentially going to a lower level club and losing week in, week out and kind of getting spanked 4-0 and things like that and demoralising him. I think he needs to be there. He needs to be clued up with the style of play that Milan are going to happen, so that, as Jace mentions, when there is an injury, which there will be, that he's able to step in and actually have an opportunity to transition in smoothly rather than sort of coming in, trying to make an impact in one game, it failing, going out for 3 games, 4 games. You almost want him to come in and maybe his first couple of appearances almost go unnoticed. That's sometimes good for a young player. They don't need to come in and sort of blow our minds by, scoring a Maradona-esque goal or dominating a game. Sometimes you just want them to come in, not make any mistakes, keep it simple, do an efficient job, pass it off to the more experienced players and just sort of run off 90 minutes and go, yeah, you know what, I was a solid 7 out of 10, made my passes, made my tackles, made my, interceptions and such. And then after a game or two, then starting to really start putting their marker down and things. I think in coaches and managers, you'd almost rather that. It's different for an attacking player because obviously you're judged on different things, beating people and creating chances and scoring goals and things like that. But for a centre mid, I quite like it. There's a couple of, obviously there's lots of very good young players around. At the moment, you alluded to earlier how well England have done, obviously at the under-20s World Cup, and obviously a few Spurs boys are sort of knocking around. And we've got a lad, Josh Onomah, who's just come away man of the match in the final. All the pundits and stuff. But a guy, Harry Winks, who's actually injured at the moment at Spurs, has actually stepped ahead of Josh because he just comes in and he's just doing his job, nice, efficient, and he got better and better and better, and we started trusting him in bigger and bigger games. And I think that's what Locatelli needs. He just needs to understand that, the world isn't expected of you as you yet. Come learn off these guys, step in and just, be as efficient as you can, rather than taking too many risks and making big mistakes and things. So I definitely would want to see it there. And he's only going to get better, only going to get better playing alongside these sort of players and training with them every day.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that plays into the part of it as well, isn't it? With Bonaventura coming back from injury, like I said, and then Kessie coming in, like I said, that pressure will go off his shoulders. He won't feel like he has to come in and be the main guy making things tick in the middle. He can just get about his business and kind of blend in, if you like, and just put in solid performances.
It'll be great. It'll be perfect for him, I think.
Let's hope so, boys. Let's hope so. Good stuff. Right, questions on Twitter. Stefano has asked a couple of questions again. Thank you again for bringing in your questions. First one is, expecting to see 4-3-3 or 3-5-2 formation this year. I actually think it's going to be a case of Teller's going to stick with the 4-3-3, but because of the players he's bringing in, he's going to have that flexibility to change things even mid-game to go with a 3-5-2, for example. You've got Rodriguez, as Jack mentioned last week, is very versatile. He can play as a wing-back, play left-back, and play on the left of a 3. He can do all those things. Conte comes in, he can do similar on the right wing-back or as a right-back. I just think there's so much. That comes back round to the sort of sense in this transfer window so far in terms of the players that are being brought in. I just think it buys into what Montella wants, and he can be flexible in games. So for me, I'd like to stick with the 4-3-3. I still think that's probably our best bet, but having that ability to change it up when we feel like it is going to be massive. So that's an absolute plus so far in the summer transfer window. One for you guys to give me your thoughts on. Stefano wants to know, does these new signings mean Scudetto challenge next season? Jace, I'll come to you first. How do you feel? What position do you feel we're in now moving forward with these early signings? Can we push on and get top 3? Can we fight for the league title, as Stefano asked?
I think definitely top 3 is realistic, considering where you finished last season and the additions you've made. It's going to be very difficult to go at the Scudetto. I think, Juve's had such a hold on it for such a long time, and Roma were pushing them last season, and I guess they'll be doing that again next season. But I think you have to go in and confident and think, if we can get a good start, if we can approach some of those games where we drop points where we shouldn't have, the Empathies and teams as such, if we can get the points we need from those and go away to these places like Roma, go away to Juve and make a good account of ourselves, and anything's possible. I think you've definitely got the players, depending on how they all click and how long it takes for the team to really get going. I think you can definitely push for those top 3 spots.
Yeah, I'd agree. I do believe top 3's got to be the aim next season. I think it's still too soon for the Scudetto challenge. As you mentioned there, Juventus too strong, but I just think I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves either. I think it's great. It's absolutely brilliant the way the summer market's gone so far, and I think the excitement, optimism's fantastic. But my thing is that when the season starts, Montella does have to put this all together, and it has to work. The expectations are going to be huge, much higher than last season. Pressure's going to be on him to get things right. So I definitely believe there'll be improvements. I think we will get a top 3 spot, but yeah, Scudetto-wise, I'm not too sure. Jack, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think Jace is on the money there, to be honest with you. I think certainly top 3 has to be minimal chance. I alluded to it earlier in terms of on paper, you've put yourselves there, obviously spending power and such. Obviously, there's a long way to go, so we're not quite sure how all the squads are going to shake out and all the rest. But, like we saw this year, we thought Juve were going to run away with it for a little bit, and then it got to the last couple of weeks, and there was still a potential race going on, albeit, that they saw it off relatively comfortable in the end. But, you get yourself in that top 3, and all of a sudden you take some points from them and all the rest, and yeah, it's game on. It's only good for the league that you're strengthening, that hopefully Roma and Napoli can be strong in terms of the league entertainment side of things again, so that, Juve are only going to drop more and more points. If it's only 1 or 2 decent teams in the league, it's going to be impossible to catch them because, they're going to walk it most weeks and such. So the stronger the league gets, the better chance that you've got for maybe a slightly unlikely title push. But top 3 minimum expectations next year, and I just think levels of performance. That's the main thing. You just want to see that year-on-year progression. You've obviously got Europa to contest with as long as we get through the qualifiers and things without issues and stuff as well. So there are going to be other challenges that need conquering. But yeah, it's exciting, and you have to raise expectations as exciting times like this arise.
Absolutely. I just love how both you completely snubbed Inter in that conversation. That was lovely. Brilliant. Good man. And then the final question from Stefano. Which signing so far has the biggest expectations? For me, I'd have to go Silva now at this point. I believe Musacchio is kind of established in that sense. You kind of know what you're getting. Bring that solidity at the back. Rodriguez, similar, international. I think he's got that experience. Kessie definitely has expectations, but I think because he's proven it in Serie A already, that you're kind of, again, expecting him to come in and make a massive difference. But there's just a question mark still over Silva, isn't there? I think, we've discussed him. Jace has obviously alluded to his goal-scoring record and stuff. I think the expectations there are huge, and especially with the role he's potentially going to have next season. I'm looking at Silva. Jace, who you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. I think whenever you sign a striker, it's always the big expectations on them because their kind of stats or how they prove themselves is so vital to the game, really. They're there to score the goals, and I think everyone's going to be waiting to see what he does, waiting to see how he stacks up to other strikers in the league. And so I think it's massive for opportunity for him and massive for the fans, really. I'm definitely excited to see what he does.
We all are, mate. We all are. Jack, full house, or are you going with another new signing?
Yeah, I think Kessie for me is the biggest expectation, just because I know of him more. And again, I've said it before that I really think he's a game changer, a sort of franchise player, and somebody that can really go to the top. So I'm really expecting him to come in and be dominating, steal headlines, and all the rest. As the strikers, as we say. It's always high expectations, but I think, I just see, again, I can only go on what I've seen, and in Kessie, I think there is someone there that we could be talking about in a couple of years as, one of the best all-round centre mids, in the game. So I'd go for Kessie.
All sounds good, boys. It's a nice headache to have, and I'm sure we'll be looking forward to seeing all these boys in action. I think that wraps us up for this week, fellas, unless either of you had anything you'd like to add.
Nothing
I think we covered it all, mate. Yeah.
Good stuff. As many listeners will already be aware, you can follow us at acmilantalk.com for all your transfer, rumour and opinion needs throughout the summer. But until next week, Jack, always a pleasure.
Yeah, been great being here. Another signing. I know you mentioned it's going to be quieting down, but get Conte over the line, and I think it'll be another exciting one next week.
I'm sure it will. I don't trust Mirabelli and Forza for a second. They'll be back out. Jace, always a pleasure, my man. And
yeah, always.
Nothing else but to say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people.